Pokemon is a juggernaut of media. It is one of, if not the biggest franchise of all time. You got the anime, the games, the manga, the endless merchandise, the fucking nursery rhymes that my son loves.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O.
But despite that, the games themselves, the backbone of the series, is stumbling. And no, that is not reflected on the money made. The Scarlet and Violet, which was like one of the worst games in the franchise, has just made a tank load of money. But the cracks that have formed will eventually cave in. The fans that lose faith aren't going to be playing these games forever, and the younger generation has plenty of other Fortnites and Roblox to keep them company and leave Pokemon in the dust. But today I want to propose 10 ideas that will not only gain the faith back in the fans, will not only keep its place on top of the mountain, but will improve the series in the long run. My name is Soul. Thank you for stumbling onto my little YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and without further ado, let's do this. Number 1. I'm gonna start with the biggest one right off the bat. Reboot the whole franchise. I know you might be thinking I'm crazy, but hear me out. The Pokedex has over 1,000 Pokemon. Even in my little child brain, I never thought we'd reach 1,000 Pokemon. And with every single generation, you have your familiar tropes, the traditional Pokemon we gotta do. We always gotta have like a Gen 2 bird that we're eventually gonna fly with. There's gonna be some bugs here and there. We're gonna do some fossil Pokemons. We've done the formula. I don't even know how many times at this point. All the starter Pokemon have to be grass, fire, water. And if you don't do that, I'm sure someone's gonna blow a gasket. Not only that, but every time Game Freak makes a new game, which is practically yearly, I'm sure half the staff is just making sure that all the data from the old games can be brought into the new game. Not only that, but these 1,000 Pokemon, let's say you bring them from the old games, there is so much data in that. The Pokemon's nature, EVs and IVs, secret abilities, secret moves. Did it have Pokerus at one point? What are the ribbons like? All of this has to come into every new game. The way to solve all of this is just to make a new Pokedex. You can have the Pokedex Gen 2, the second era Pokedex, whatever you want to call it. Don't get me wrong, the first 1,000 Pokemon, that franchise, you can still do whatever you want to do with it. You still have all the merch opportunities, the opportunities for games, animes, whatever you want to do. But now we can start fresh and do whatever we want. We can abandon all the old rules of Pokemon so we can have this new thing. And no, you can't just bring all your old Pokemon into this new game. They're going to be separate. And maybe eventually there will be some kind of super Pokemon bank, but right off the bat, no, we don't need to bring in the previous 1,000 Pokemon into this new game. And if you want to do crossovers later, you can, and it's even cooler because you waited longer to do the crossovers. And Pokemon loves to reuse assets, right? Like, we're going to have a new Charizard eventually, in some way, shape, or form. But if you have a new Pokedex and just want to pay homage to old Pokemon, you can just reboot them, make a completely new Charizard that looks completely different and functions completely differently, but it can be a new thing. A lot of people think Pokemon should grow up. There should be a teen-rated Pokemon with a little bit more edge. You could do that with this new generation. You can put Pokemon in space, have a sci-fi themed Pokemon game, whatever you want to do. And you can even update something that needs to be updated for a long time in Pokemon: new types. Number 2, new types. Every single time Game Freak makes a new Pokemon, they have to change the meta in order to format these new Pokemon with the older Pokemon. It's a whole mess, right? Back in Generation 1, when they made types for Pokemon, they weren't thinking of decades worth of meta they have to deal with. And over the years, Game Freak has even introduced new types to combat old ones that are overpowered. Certain types have been nerfed, or there's held items. It's a lot to take in. Also, when Game Freak makes new Pokemon, they have to adhere to these types that they've done hundreds of times over. There's only so many bugs and birds and fire types that you can make before you start to run out of ideas. There are thousands of Pokemon fan drawings that are way better than what Game Freak is doing, and a big part of that is that they're making different types. Like I was saying earlier with that sci-fi idea, if you did Pokemon in space where you get to go to different planets or something, you could have like an alien type. Since Pokemon has been around, there's been a huge advancement in technology and the internet. You could have like a data type, an internet theme type. There's a dark type, why not a light type? The legendary beasts, people have wanted like a beast type. Wood, rubber. There's a million elements or ideas you can do for types, and I want to see them, but they're not going to exist unless we start doing something different with the types. And there's already dual types. Make it 3. Do something wacky. Just be creative about it. Or just don't do any types at all. Like I said, if we're starting fresh, you can do whatever you want. Be as creative as you want with it. Here's something that's long overdue. Voice acting. I'm all for silent protagonists. I'm all for my RPGs that are text-based and I just get to read big blocks of text about lore. I'm all for that kind of stuff. That being said, Pokemon is not the franchise to do that. Pokemon storylines have gotten more and more boring, usually copying and pasting the main plot points, and all the small plot points in between have evaporated. Evil faction over here, 8 gym badges or the equivalent over here, the champion, rival, friend characters who just pop up here and then. You've seen it a million times by now. With the type of storytelling Pokemon has been doing pretty much ever since it hit 3D, it can only improve with voice acting. Number 4, graphics overhaul. So there's probably 1,000 videos on this site just complaining about Pokemon, and the one that I see the most is the graphics. Go to any new Pokemon trailer and people are complaining about the graphics. In the year 2024, we are getting PS3 at best graphics. And this wouldn't be a big deal if, again, this wasn't coming from a billion-dollar company. It's also plagued with stuttering frames that still litter this game, bad performance across the board. All of this to hold up a bad art direction that has been upheld since coming to the Switch. You could argue Pokemon never had good graphics. Back on the Game Boy, I wasn't expecting photorealism or anything. But one thing it did have back then was good art direction. I could give you an endless examples of good art direction, good style in these older Pokemon games. Since coming to 3D, even before the Nintendo Switch, Pokemon has slowly had worse and worse art direction. When Pokemon came to the Nintendo Switch, they raised the price tag up to $60, $70 now. And I think along that process, they expected themselves to have like these big, better games, even though, trust me, people will still pay $70 for Pokemon games no matter what they look like. And jumping to a 3D, bigger environment has only hurt the franchise. If these games don't have good art direction in 3D, if you can't even make them perform on the Nintendo Switch or the Switch 2 or whatever is coming out in the future, if they can't run properly on these games with this current style, don't do it. If going back to 2D means better looking games, then do that. Look at games like Octopath Traveler. There are games out there that are 2D that feel like they belong on a big console that can cost $70 and still have good art direction. Hi Bella, you want to join the video? Pokemon just needs to find a good art style, polish it as clean as they can, and get the ball rolling on the new generations. Number 5, more RPG mechanics. Pokemon was a strong 90s RPG, but despite evolution being a major theme for the franchise, its mechanics have not really evolved past that. Don't get me wrong, there's always a new gimmick with every Pokemon game, but there are so many different things RPG games are doing nowadays that if Pokemon implemented would only help them. Let's start with just you, the trainer. Imagine if you could have attires that were collectible. They're just not random things that show up in a shop with a limited pool of choices. You actually have to hunt down different outfits. The Pokemon themselves can have different armors. Again, Pokemon isn't going to do this because if they had certain armor for all 1,000 Pokemon, that would be way too hard, but if you just start out with another 150, each one has their own unique armor types, you have to go out into the world and start collecting them. That's a whole new layer on top of the game. Pokemon is an RPG, but it's also a collectathon. We should have more things to collect that can boost up our Pokemon. And again, if we are using new stats, new things, it's a lot easier to implement these ideas. And again, this is a whole new system. We don't just have to go up to level 99 and that's it. Level up armor, skill trees, whatever you want to do. There's endless ideas. And throw in just some other random RPG mechanics. You can have your attacks level up the more you use them. Actual boss battles, like real boss battles. Endless loot you can collect, audio logs, I don't give a shit, throw it in there. I don't want Pokemon just to feel like an RPG again, I want it to feel like a modern day RPG. Number 6, cinematic gameplay. There is a video by Daryl Plays Games that covers this topic way better than I could, so I'm gonna direct you guys to that video. But I'm gonna repeat some of the sentiment here. Look at a game like Pokemon Colosseum XD Gale of Darkness. Look at any random battle encounter. Look at the camera moving across the battlefield. Each animation for each attack is unique. The way the Pokemon move, they react to when they're hit, the way they come out of the Pokeball. All of this is completely empty in modern day Pokemon games where it feels like you're hitting wet paper whenever you attack. These are the types of things Game Freak can't focus on because they're too busy working on whatever gimmick. Again, if you only have 150 Pokemon, you can really focus on each one having unique animations for each attack that they do. You can work on the camera actually being able to interact with the environment and the Pokemon. Something that's been needed in the franchise for a long time would severely help the game. Number 7. Balancing the game. How long have we been asking to set the difficulty level in these games? Pokemon has been a baby game for so long that fans have created their own ways to make these games more challenging because Game Freak won't do it for them. Or at least let me turn experience share off. Experience share broke these games. They're already broken, but now it's mega broke. The stupid amount of candies you get from raids broke it even more. I don't need to play Pokemon Dark Souls Edition, but most players who play these games have been playing them for a long time. It'd be nice if they were acknowledged and challenged accordingly. I think it'd be super refreshing if random trainer battles, they actually swapped out Pokemon, used held items, did things to make the encounters more memorable. Fan mods have found 100 ways to make these games more difficult and fun. I just want Game Freak to take a hint from them. Number 8, an actual story. So you boot up your game of Pokemon. There's a professor who's named after a tree. He gives you a Pokemon. You have a rival / friend who has a Pokemon, and y'all are gonna duke it out a couple times throughout your adventure. You collect 8 gym badges or the equivalent. Meanwhile, there's a team of bad people who are looking at this perfect utopia world and they're like, enough of that, we're gonna do something different. You smack them around, you get your 8 badges, you go up to Victory Road, assuming they decided to put it in this game. You fight an Elite Four, maybe even a champion that's some kind of twist. You didn't think it was going to be that character from earlier in the game. At some point, there's a story with the legendary creature that's probably on the box art. Roll credits. I want you to do literally anything else. Well, maybe not everything, because Legends Arceus did something different, and that wasn't good either. But there are Pokemon side games that have good stories. You can take a note from them. I know this is a dumb video of a guy yelling at a billion-dollar company to make their games the way that he wants them to. So I don't want to literally write the story for them, but again, anything but what you're doing. And there's plenty of other things you can do. You can have actual side quests, not like in Legends Arceus. You can have actual side quests with story and characters that isn't just a checklist of fetch quests and miscellaneous tasks. Every single legendary can have their own story leading up to the moment you fight them. Maybe it's because I'm playing too much Fallout, but you could have companion quests, like certain Pokemon that you encounter can only be encountered once, and they have unique stories that accompany them. And after you catch them, the story continues. Really, all you have to do is break the format that you've been doing for decades at this point. And once you do that, the story has limitless possibilities. Number 9, an interesting map. I'm gonna be directing you guys to another video. I'm sorry, I've watched a lot of videos of dudes complaining about Pokemon. That's kind of what inspired this video. This video by Internet Pitstop is over an hour long, and he dissects how badly Pokemon's map design has fallen off. To echo some of his words, Pokemon's map design used to have a lot of unique locations. The towns used to have an aesthetic. They were packed with lore and lots of content with things to do. And you're lucky if you get maybe even one of those checked off in the checkbox with new Pokemon games. Pokemon seems to think just making a big ass town with nothing to do and a bunch of NPCs that say nothing is the way to go. Make the town smaller. Pokemon used to have towns a fraction of the size of these new ones, and they had 5 times the amount of lore and 5 times the amount of things to do. And I don't want just this giant open space of emptiness where Pokemon derpy around. I want unique locations. I want variety of nature where Pokemon actually live and interact with the environment. I don't think we have to go back to walking in the tall grass or anything. But if we are committing to Pokemon walking around, I want them to be doing things. If I'm in an environment, I want it to make sense why that certain Pokemon is there and why they're doing the things that they're doing. If Pokemon have good AI and a landscape that's actually interesting, filled with towns, with lore and all the things that they used to have, the games would be so much better. Go into the skies, catch Pokemon up there. Go down into the water to catch water Pokemon. Go into space, I don't care. Give me back Victory Road, for God's sakes. Just give me something, Game Freak. And number 10, co-op. In my perfect Pokemon world, there would just be like a Pokemon MMO, and the single players would be their own separate things, and you could send things maybe back and forth that wouldn't break the game. I don't think we're getting that anytime soon, so here's the other idea. Co-op should be entirely post-game, because it's been proven time and time again, if you introduce co-op, even trading or anything like that before the end of the game, it's gonna break the game. But I think once you beat the game, our players should be able to travel to some kind of Pokemon Master Land that's basically just gonna be like a light MMO. For some reason, Game Freak just thinks we need like a new gimmick for co-op every single time. A lot of the things that Pokemon has been doing, they can do in this new area. If they want to do raids, they can. If they want to do missions with their friends and a little story quest, they can. You can set up tournaments, you can battle each other, trade each other. You can do that all in this like big town, and then maybe once you leave the town, there's a big open space that Pokemon seems to like doing. And if you want to do DLCs, just make that part of the game bigger. That's where the post game is. That's where everyone's gonna go to catch the big shiny legendary Pokemon. That's where you go. And this goes kind of hand in hand with co-op. Shiny hunting. I don't think Pokemon has been slacking on shiny hunting. They seem to know that that's where a big part of the fan base is. So all you have to do is make fun gameplay loops for shiny hunting, preferably with other players. The 2 things I would change: 1, give us a little bit of variety. It seems like each game just has like their one true mechanic that works to shiny hunt that beats all the other games in the past. I would say just give a little bit of variety. Different ways of shiny hunting, that way we're not just doing the exact same loop over and over. The second thing is leave a good handful of Pokemon out of that shiny hunting loop. That way those shiny Pokemon are still super rare. Like imagine a pseudo legendary that can only be shiny via a one-time encounter. That way that shiny Pokemon is truly rare, and the people who have that can actually hold it up with some value. I love shiny hunting, but it does feel like we're hitting a wall with someone can just have a giant bank full of shiny Pokemon, and somehow it doesn't mean that much. And that's about it from me. Those were the 10 things I thought could improve Pokemon. We got the Reboot Pokedex, introducing new types, voice acting, that's an easy one, graphical overhaul, more RPG mechanics, cinematic gameplay, balancing the games properly, better story, interesting map, better co-op. I know I'm speaking this into existence like it's so easy. Like there's not going to be a team of developers slaving over this, doing something I could never do. But I think as fans, these types of conversations are important. It's important for developers to listen to those conversations and potentially making the games better in the future. I've been playing Pokemon for a very long time. There are certain games that come out that burn me out of that. I don't want to be that way. I want to keep playing Pokemon and loving this franchise. And I want to introduce Pokemon to my son and the future generation, but that can't happen unless the games get better. But that's about it from me. Again, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm a small YouTuber that appreciates all the help I can get. Thank you for watching as always, and until next time with that, I leave you.